All right, guys, welcome to another podcast. And as promised, I'll be discussing Irish schools rugby. Now, obviously, I did this after request, like numerous requests, after my analysis of New Zealand and Australian schools. So, obviously, what we're going to do is delve into the strength of Irish schools rugby. Now, remember, a lot of this is opinions and are based on what I can find. And I'm pretty good at researching, excuse me. I'm pretty good at researching the web and finding information. And what I do is I find that information and then I sort of form my opinions around that. Always additional information is very, very much appreciated. So anything that you guys feel that you can add, please do. So just in terms of an overview, basically the school competition is divided along the 4 provinces of Ireland. So you got the Connacht League, Leinster League, the Munster League and the Ulster League. From what I've seen, looks like the Leinster League is far and away the strongest in Ireland. Now, if we take a look at Connacht, the Connacht League seems like it's been dominated by a school called Gobbly College. In recent times, we've seen a school, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, but they're known as the Jess, and Maris College have also some wins. And the Jess have been the most successful team since the turn of the millennium. Again, this is not really reflective of the overall picture of Irish schools rugby. I think this is one of the weaker leagues, if I'm not mistaken. Then we've got the Leinster schools. Blackrock, absolutely dominant. And from what I've seen, they seem to be like Ireland's version of Grey College or Grey Bloom. But they've got other strong schools. They've got St. Michael's, Clongowes, Wood School, and Belvedere College also seem to be fairly strong schools within Ireland. And then we've got the Munster schools. They seem to be a bit more competitive than the other leagues, with like not one school showing complete domination. But looks like these 3 are the major schools. Presentation Brothers Cork with 29 titles, Christian Brothers Cork with 29 titles, and Rockwell College with 26 titles. Then we've got the Ulster schools. From what I've seen, it's on forums and all the rest of it. Like I say, I searched quite significantly, guys, and from what I've seen, it's one of the weaker competitions as well. So we've got the Methodist College in Belfast, the most successful team with 35 trophies, followed by Royal Belfast Academical Institute with 32 and Campbell College with 24. So let's just go into an overview of their results against South African schools. So you can see straight away that's a big result. Campbell College beat Uffies, and Uffies had a 21-1 domestic season. They only lost to Grey College that year. And they were likely ranked in the second in the country. And Campbell College weren't even Ulster champions that year. So, I mean, that's a pretty big win, and that's pretty impressive. So, off to a good start for Ireland. And then we had a Westville tour to Ireland in '98. Westville had a 7-win and 9-loss local season, probably outside the top 15 in South Africa. They beat Castleknock, who seemed to be a fairly strong Leinster school, 33-8. Limavady 74-5. They don't seem to be a strong rugby school. And Strabane or whatever, Grammar 66. Again, they don't seem to be a very strong rugby school. Then 98, Grey lost to St. Mary's 15 points to 10. Now this is St. Mary's Rugby Club, not St. Mary's school. So don't get the two confused. Now St. Mary's Rugby Club are one of the top rugby clubs in Ireland, from what my research indicates. So very, very strong, and beat Grey in '98, and Grey had an unbeaten team, just the one draw with Uffies. And then in 2001, Grey beat St. Mary's, bit of revenge, 39-0. And again, in 2001, they had an unbeaten team, only drawing to Uffies. Then in 2005, we got Westville beating Belvedere College, 10 points to 3. Now, in 2005, Belvedere were the Leinster Schools champions, and Westville had an 11-win and 6-loss that season. So they would have Westville that year would have probably just been inside the top 35 of South Africa. And then in 2011, we got Campbell College doing a tour of South Africa. They were the Ulster champions that year. As you can see, very, very dreadful, dreadful tour. They lost to Tygerberg 54-31. Tygerberg had a 12-win, 2-draw, and 6-loss season. They're not a big rugby school. They lost to Porus 45-10. Porus are a big rugby school, but had a 9-win, 1 draw and 6 loss season. Then they lost to Piketberg 5 points to 3, and I mean that's not even a top 100 school in South Africa. And then they drew with Drosti. Now Drosti are, I'd say, probably average to just above average rugby school, and they had a 13-win, 1 draw and 4 loss season that year. But they the same as Tygerberg, aren't a big school, so therefore don't play a lot of strong opposition. Then 2012, Rondebosch did a tour. Their domestic season, they had a 5-win and 11 loss season. You can see they had a 15-0 win over Ballymena Academy, and they also quite a strong Ulster school. And then very, very strong win against Galwegians, and Galwegians are a club based in Connacht. And then in 2012, Royal Belfast Academical, did a tour to South Africa. It wasn't one of their stronger teams, and it showed. I mean, they lost to Sutherland High 55-12. And Sutherland High, again, not a top 100 school. Tygerberg 29-12. And losing to Porus 54-5. Strand 39-0. So, well beaten on every single one of their games on tour. And then in 2012, we got Limavady beaten Punt 21-20. As I said before, they don't seem to be a strong rugby school, but Punt is not a rugby school on any level. I mean, they had a 4-win and 6 loss season, and they were decimated by like very, very average schools. And then 2012, Wynberg did a tour to Ireland. And Wynberg had a fairly good season that year. They had 13 wins and 4 losses, and they were ranked 13th in the country. They beat Limavady 40 points to 12. They beat Methodist College Belfast 10-0, and they were the Ulster champions that year. They beat the Portadown Club 44-5 and beat the Royal School 52-10. And then Coleraine did a tour to South Africa in 2013. They're the 4th most successful school in the Ulster League, thumped by Bishop 78-0 and lost to Swartland 39-0. In 2014, St. Henry's lost to Catholic University School 12-19. Both aren't major rugby schools. Then in 2014, Somerset College did a tour to Ireland. Somerset are a very, very weak rugby school. And domestically, they had a 3-win and 6 loss season. So I'm pretty sure in most years they'd be outside the top 100 in South Africa. Certainly, they would never be inside the top 50 in South Africa. So they beat Gary Owen 27-5, beat Middleton College 12-0. Then they lost to St. Mary's Rugby Football Club 22-0 and lost to the high school 7-15. And then in 2015, Monument did a tour to Ireland, well, part of the UK tour. Monument had a pretty strong team that year. They were ranked 5th in South Africa, and they beat Blackrock pretty convincingly, 33 points to 7. Blackrock didn't reach the Leinster final that year, it must be remembered. Now, they normally win this year, they didn't win, so it wasn't one of their strongest teams, but still a pretty significant score. And then they played the Munster under 18, which is like basically playing a province, right? And look at that, 50 points to 12. And in 2015, Maref Lyon had a tour to Ireland. And they had a 12-win and 2-loss season. Now, that looks good on paper, but they don't play in a strong league. Now, for example, they lost 55-7 to Gasfontein, and they were ranked 23rd in the country in 2015. So you're looking at Maref Lyon probably being outside the top 50. And on their tour, they beat the Dolphin Club 59-0, beat Gary Owen 22-17, and lost to Terenru College 15-24, and they're pretty strong Leinster school. Then the Royal School did a tour to South Africa. They didn't reach the final of the Ulster Cup. They beat York 21-7. They lost to Brackenfell 54-12. Then they beat Charlie Hofmeyr 12-8 and lost to Swartland 17 points to 5. None of the schools they played are even close to the top 50. Not even close. And then 2016, Rondebosch did a tour to Ireland. Now, Rondebosch were ranked 28th in the country in 2016. 2 massive wins over clubs, plus beating the Munster under 18 team. Again, a province, a school that's ranked outside our top 20 playing a province and beating them comfortably. And then Parktown Boys had a draw against Cashel Rugby Football Club. Parktown had a 9-win and 6-loss season, but would probably be outside the top 50. Now, it's very hard for me to do rankings on the Irish clubs. I was more expecting it to be school against school, but a lot of these matches seem to be club matches. Then Belleville did a tour in 2017. In their domestic season, they had a 10-win and 8-loss season, definitely outside the top 50. And they had comfortable victories over Campbell College, as well as Sullivan Upper. And Campbell College, as we know, is a powerhouse school in Ulster. Sullivan Upper doesn't seem to be a big rugby school, but I'm hoping that it was Campbell College's second team that played this, because if not, that's extremely weak. So, overall, what we've got over here is 34 wins for South African teams and 9 wins for Irish teams, with an average score of 34 points to 9. We haven't seen a lot of great Irish schools against great South African schools. And I think the reason we haven't seen that is because there's not a massive quantity of great Irish schools. I think it's very, very much dominated by the Leinster League from what I'm reading into it, because, I mean, look, teams like Rondebosch beating Munster and Monument beating Munster, entire province, shows me that the concentration of power must be in the Leinster League. So it would basically be Blackrock, maybe St. Michael's, a couple of other teams maybe that could compete with, say, some of the South African schools. But I think if you're taking a look at Grey College and Uffies and, you know, the major South African schools, I think even the best in Ireland would really struggle against those schools. Now, there was a tour, and St. Michael's did to South Africa in 2016, and St. Michael's is a major school. Now, look at who they played, guys. They played Castleflace. They're not even on the map. Then they beat Swartland. And Swartland had 11-3 season. Again, looks good on paper, but they're not playing strong schools. They you know, just below average, I'd say. I'd definitely say they're below average rugby school. Average to below average, depending on the year. Then look at this. They played Wynberg's second team. And look, they thrashed them 52-12. But Wynberg was ranked outside the top 50 in 2016. Now, why would one of the top Leinster schools come to South Africa and not even play a school outside our top 50, but playing a school's second team that is outside of our top 50? It doesn't make sense. They should have been playing Wynberg's first team at least. And I think what you should be seeing is, like, some of these Leinster schools probably playing southern suburbs or border schools, or some of the Natal schools, you know, some of the Natal private schools. I think they can sort of compete on that level. But, you know, beating Swartland 30-16 means that if you're playing Paul Jim or you're playing Paul Boys, you're playing Paul Riss, they're going to put 50, 60 points on the board against you. It's a guarantee. Now, I want to take a look at some other results to form some sort of comparisons. I'm going to look at some Leinster schools against England schools. Because, look, if you're looking at the overall picture, I can find a shitload of data on English versus Irish schools. I mean, they're very close to each other geographically. So what I wanted to do is look at Leinster schools against English schools, but I wanted to look at championship winning teams, because that would, like, sort of dilute the overall picture, so to speak. You know, I don't want to go over like 500 results. And it's basically focusing on quality over quantity. Now, I looked at Sanex, but no Irish teams ever reached a final of the Sanex tournament. And it also seems like a lot of their top schools don't even attend the festival. So it's not really a way to measure the relative strength of Irish schools. Now, if you take a look at their results against some of the English schools, right? So Blackrock, in 2004, Blackrock lost to Christ's Hospital. And Christ had an 11-win and 8-loss season in England. And then in 2006, Blackrock did a tour of the UK. Now, they beat Truro College 27-25. And Truro had an 8-win, 1 draw, and 5-loss season, and they got thrashed in the Bucks final against Hartbury College. Then they beat Ivybridge Community 31-5, and they had a 7-win and 6-loss season. Then they lost to Colstons, 14 points to 15. Now, Colston's had a really good team that year, that unbeaten season, but they came to South Africa and they played Porus, and Porus beat them 28-13, beat Colston's very comfortably. And Porus had a pretty good year, they're probably top 5. But they beat Gray and Paul Jim, but they lost to Bishops. But I remember the 2006 team being a very good team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, guys, I think that might have been the year where Francois Hooghart and Koenie van Wyk and the boys were in the team. Very good team. But yeah, we see like a championship-winning team losing to a top English team, and that top English team getting absolutely thumped by a top 5 South African team. And 28-13 is a significant score when you think about 2 top teams playing each other. Then 2009, they lost to Colston's again. Colston's had a 7-win, 1 draw and 5 loss season. And to put it into perspective, that year Colston's drew with the Millfield School. Now, to give you perspective on the Millfield School that year, they lost to both the Campion School and Tunbridge, right? So BlackRock lost to Colston's, who couldn't beat Millfield, and Millfield lost to both Campion and Tunbridge, which tells me that Campion and Tunbridge would have given BlackRock a close run for their money or even beaten them. Now, Campion were destroyed by every school on the South African tour, and they only had 1 win against the Haltmekaar second team. Tunbridge were beaten 43-13 by Grey High School, not Grey College, Grey High School in Port Elizabeth. And they were probably just outside the top 20 that year. Then we got 2013, BlackRock beat SGS Fulton 21-14. They had 11 win and 10 loss domestic season, and they did a tour to South Africa, and they lost to Paul Boys 72 points to 5. So the same team that BlackRock beats 21-14, Paul Boys beats 72-5. And Paul Boys were ranked 13th that year in South Africa. 13th. And in 2003, Terenurhu College was thumped by Colston's 41-0. Not much I can say about that. I don't have any comparative results for you. But I can tell you that Colston's team were shit hot. I mean, they had an unbeaten season, 21 games and 0 losses. A great team. So, look, overall, I think what we're seeing here is, again, the same picture coming up, where it's definitely a case of South African schools, English schools, and New Zealand schools definitely being a lot stronger. Now let's just take a look at comparative results between Ireland and SA schools. So we've only got 5 samples here that I could find. And in 2012, South Africa beat France 17-0, and Ireland managed to beat France 22-20. And we managed to beat, South Africa managed to beat England 36-29. Ireland lost 13-25. 2013, we managed to beat France 17-13. Ireland lost 18-23. And in 2014, we beat France 28-13. Ireland beat them 24-11. And then we played England, we lost 22-30. And Ireland lost 14 points to 30. So I think 2012, 2013, to be fair, I think we would have beaten them quite comfortably. 2014 would have been a bit tighter. Now, if we take a look, the transition, as we've always talked about, is very important to take a look at. So let's look at under 20 level. The results against head-to-head. We've played 4 times. 3 wins to South Africa, 1 win to Ireland, and an average score of 37-20 to South Africa. Ireland, very, very poor record for a nation this size. I mean, like a top rugby nation. Very, very poor record. Average 7th place finish, and South Africa's got an average of 3rd place. So definitely I would expect a lot more from Ireland. But we got to remember, and this ties into my conclusion, relative to Ireland's population size, I think the school system's strong. But I don't think you can compare it to South Africa and New Zealand. And I think, along with Australia, the reason why the schoolboy system isn't as strong as South Africa or New Zealand schoolboy system is because you've got a smaller population competing with other codes. And in Ireland, you've got soccer and Gaelic football to compete with, for example, right? So when you got a small population sample and you've got different codes, what that does is that dilutes your talent. And what I see is that the concentration of power seems small, but recent results show it's becoming more competitive. So what I think overall, in terms of my opinion, I think they're probably, if I had to take the top Irish schools and compare them to South African and New Zealand schools, I would say a top 10 South African and New Zealand school would easily beat the top 3 in Ireland very easily. I think it would be quite comfortable. But besides that, I think there's definitely a lot of talent in Ireland. And I really hope to see schools like St. Michael's or what's it called, Blackrock College or someone like that participate at the World Schools Festival. Once we see them in action, I think it's going to be a lot better. And I think Etienne Finn, if I'm not mistaken, is doing a lot of work on bringing the Leinster schools over to South Africa for rugby tours, because we have a hell of a lot of tours coming from the English schools. They really enjoy it. It's a great place to learn about rugby, see wildlife, all the rest of it. So tours to South Africa are fantastic for sort of UK and Irish schools. So let's hope we start seeing a lot more internation schoolboy rugby between the two nations, so we can really see the relative strengths. But I stick by my word, and I definitely think that the Ireland system is a bit weaker by some distance to South Africa, New Zealand, and even to an extent England. If I was going to rank so far from what I've studied so far, I'd say it's neck and neck between South Africa and New Zealand. I think England are by quite a distance in third place, and I would put Ireland probably ahead of Australia at school level in terms of rugby. So yeah, anyway, as always, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what your comments and opinions are, and as always, please send me links when you give me some opinion, some data and all the rest of it. The last thing I want to do is start an argument on what ifs. Let's really look at data. I know that BlackRock's done some tours to New Zealand, and some of the other schools probably have as well, but I couldn't find it. So if you can provide links, that'd be fantastic. And have a fantastic week further, as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Cheers.